if you're like most people, you're at least a little scared to retire. But we don't want to let that fear keep us from taking full advantage of the youth of our senior years. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about what the biggest fear is that I hear and what you can do to overcome that fear. So let's go for a walk and talk about it. So the biggest fear is, people want to make sure that their investments outlive them, not the other way around. And it's a perfectly rational fear, right? Because, 40, 50 years ago, the average lifespan took you into your mid-60s. And now, you're probably, if you're in good health, you're looking at least 80, maybe mid-80s, if you're close to retirement. So, that's a lot of time, and you want to make sure that you don't run out of capital along the way. So, what can you do to gain clarity on this? And one of the main tools is something called the Monte Carlo simulation that can run all kinds of different scenarios, both good markets, bad markets, to look at your finances, to look at your plan, and to basically stress test it to see, if you get unlucky, if the market, none of us have a crystal ball, if you happen to get bad returns and they persist for a while, will your portfolio withstand that? Will you still have enough money to do the things you want to do and to live a comfortable and secure life in retirement? It's super important. One of the most powerful tools to do that is a Monte Carlo simulation. It basically takes all of the stock market's past performance, including the Great Depression, including 2008, 2009 financial crisis, all the scary moments, and it's a statistical tool to randomly apply that. And actually what you're doing is you're running like 1,000 different lives or 10,000 different lives and statistically bringing up these different returns at different times and see what happens. And so you can look at these worst case scenarios, and ideally you want like a 95% likelihood, at least close to a 90% or better likelihood that even in these scary periods you're still going to be okay. And that's called the Monte Carlo simulation. Now, the clarity and the confidence is not with the tool itself, right? It's good to use the tool. It's good to have access to the tool. There are free online Monte Carlo simulations, but I'd say the magic's not with the tool. The magic is with the wisdom of having run these scenarios, of having had these discussions, of having worked with people over decades. And seeing what's worked, what hasn't worked. So I'd really encourage you to consider hiring somebody. It doesn't have to be awfully expensive to at least run a Monte Carlo simulation. And I think it's worthwhile to run a bigger financial plan for you. You think about it, you've worked probably over 40 years, at least 30 years, getting ready for this moment. And you want to be sure that you have the clarity and you have the confidence in your plan. Now, there's no guarantees in life, right? But you can gain a lot of confidence, and that will give you sleep at night factor in the scary moments. And hopefully there are no scary moments in your retirement. But if history's in any indication, over a 10, 20, 30, or 40-year period, there's likely going to be some scary times in there. You look at just the last 20 years here in the U.S., right? Well, if you go back 25 years, you've got the dot-com bubble bust, you've got 2008, 2009, the financial crisis, you've got the beginning of COVID, just last year in 2022 was a scary time. With the June lows, the market was down about 20%. Those types of periods, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think it's more likely that those types of periods are going to continue rather than discontinue. So it's really the wisdom that you're looking for, and really a river guide, somebody that understands you and your situation and your goals and can help you make good decisions when you need to make good decisions the most. So again, that's the number one fear. I want to share some other fears that I hear. But before I get there, if you're enjoying the video so far, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up, give me a like. Really does help the algorithm. It helps my channel. And thank you for doing that. Okay, so what are some other fears that people have? What are they scared of? In general, it's there's the financial side that we talked about, but then there's also the non-financial side. There's the what's my purpose going to be? What what is my next passion going to be? How am I going to use my time? I don't want to be bored. I don't want to be watching TV 8 hours a day, which unfortunately is kind of the default. The average person in the United States over 65 watches TV 38 hours a day. That's a tremendous amount of TV watching. And it's just not healthy. So you don't want that. You don't want that to be you. You know, it's probably fine if you're not physically able to go outside, but if you're physically healthy, if you're mobile, get out, walk, do things like that. I think it's so important. Okay, so what are some other ways to protect yourself from these financial fears? I think one is, you know, to the extent you can, get out of debt before you retire. Work really hard to make that happen. You know, recently there were mortgage rates that were super low. People are probably tempted to hold on to those. I get that. There's no right or wrong answer here, but I think you're going to feel a lot of freedom. You're going to have a lot more flexibility to the extent you can get out of debt. You know, be careful with your credit cards. You know, those get expensive very quickly. Try not to buy stuff if you're not paying off your credit card every month. I know that's a big challenge. And what are some things you can do if you know you ran the numbers and you're close and you're like, you know, I think I'm okay, but you know, maybe you feel like you're at 90% of plan. You know, is it really worth working another 5 years, 5 of what are likely going to be the healthiest of your coming years? Remember, if you're 60 years old or a 60-year-old, only has 1,000 weeks of healthy, active time in front of them. So if you're 55 and you feel like you want to retire, you feel like you're ready to retire, but you're at 90% of plan, right? Those next 5 years are probably going to be your healthiest and most active. So those are enormously valuable. So if you feel you're at 90% of plan, what can you do? You know, we're humans, we're adaptable. There are ways to make more money, but there is not ways to make more time. So think about that carefully, right? Could you do a side business? Could you do a hobby business and maybe generate $20,000 a year in extra income? Whether that's, you know, you do arts and crafts and you could open up a Etsy business or some online business or, you know, a Shopify thing, or be an online writer, contract out with somebody that has a brand online and you do some of the writing for them. Something that gives you time and geographical flexibility. Making an extra $20,000 a year is kind of the same as saving another $500,000, because, you know, you're only going to be able to, the 4% rule, 4% of 500,000 is $20,000 a year in cash flows for you. So that's where I get that from. So think about what are some things you could tweak. Think about what are some things that you could do to allow you to retire sooner rather than later if you're ready. If you're not ready, I think it's worth investing in speaking with somebody to help you think about, you know, what are you going to do in retirement? What is your next passion going to be? Because I think once you find that next passion, you're going to be glad that you found it. You're going to be glad that you made that transition, and you'll probably look back and wish you had made that transition sooner. So we've got a train coming here, so I'm going to wrap it up before the train destroys my video. Until next time, leave me a like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I love reading your comments. Until next time, I'm Azul, encouraging you to take full advantage of the youth of your senior years. Remember, you're only young once. Let's use our time wisely. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I'll let you watch this train go by for a couple seconds here before we head out. Okay, I hope this video has been super helpful. Again, if it was, give me a thumbs up. Thanks. Bye-bye.